road. In December 17, when I met you, you voted through this in opposition. When the numbers went up and this road was pushed into the plan, you voted for it. I can't see how you can stand here now and join with us when you actually supported this road being built.
The actual reality is just remembering there, you'll remember that when it first came forward, and I was here with everybody at the far end of there when we first spoke about that. You'll recall that I was there when we were talking about it. Sorry, we spoke about interrupting earlier. There were, as I recall, because I sat on the infrastructure committee as it was called at that time, 3 different proposals for a relief road. There were a number of options that were put forward. The one that was being proposed that we objected to was the one that we listened to residents, and we listened to the residents and their view on what we should be objecting to and approving. But as I recall then, the principle was to have a road. There was no detail with regard to how that road might look, what the facts of it were, what the traffic studies were done, because I remember at that time, I don't think there'd been a traffic study done. In fact, Mr. Knight came to that meeting up in room 4, and we went through the traffic evidence at the time, and I think they came back and said, this is a proposal only. So we're now getting to something where you've got a developer that is significantly saying, this is what's going to happen, and that is a massive step change to the conversations that were being had about a relief road and everything well there.
It stopped at the proposal stage. The developer doesn't even come into it there. If it had been stopped by you at the proposal stage, you wouldn't be talking to developers about whether they're going on to any further stages. You wouldn't have got there.
Right, we've got another question. Sorry, this one another question. Do you want to go?
Hello, is that working?
And
yeah.
shout.
Pardon?
And shout.
And shout, yeah, okay. My name's Clive Tooby. I live in the Priory, which is up near Mayflower School, and this is my first visit to Frithwood Lane. But when I looked at the map, I thought, if you just go a bit further down Ty Common Road, to the end of the houses, why can't the link road, if there is going to be one, go across there? Why does it have to come through here? That's my first question. My second question is completely different. Over the last few years, there have been a couple of lobby groups, that's BAG rather, the Billericay Action Group, and the Billericay and District Residents Association. The Billericay and District Residents Association have been quite active over the last few years on this. Where are they now? What's happening there? And you mentioned a lawyer who would be employed, but I thought they'd already done that. I thought they were doing that themselves. So what's happening there?
I think that one's Mike's from Bag. Do you want to respond, Mike?
Well, I think if you look at our website, you might notice we have been slightly active. Well, not every second, but say Billericay from Housing Development, that's quite a popular site. I think Andy does a great job of managing that. There's quite a bit on there if you want to look at it. It's quite good. Resident Association, I was a vice chair of that. Yeah, every edition of Resident that we've had that I can recall for the last couple of years had a piece on the local plan. And there'll be a nice bit in the next edition coming out in a week or so's time. Yeah, I think being quite active. We've employed the odd traffic consultant, the odd consultant to respond. If you looked at the response to the 2016 consultation, the 2018 consultation, you'll find we've probably put a few things in.
Yes, I know, yeah, I realise that. That's why I was asking. I didn't realise you were from BAG, so
Yeah.
that wasn't clear. Yeah, but have you employed a lawyer? Or have you been active in that way?
Certainly discussed the issue. Yeah, it's something we're talking about. We're not going to go too public on issues like that at this stage.
Can I just say on that, if I may, we're not talking about the bagging, we're talking about this your issue. I mean, this, I understand that, but we're talking about what you said earlier. This is just what you want. So we're asking you whether you want this person with the name, if you want that person to help you on your issue. And I know there's an overriding factor of the whole of Billericay, but you're concerned about here. We're here now because we're concerned about here. So that's where the comment is. Solicitors can help, and no problem. Not a problem. But we're asking whether you want one to represent you.
here now.
Well, why can't the road go further down?
Well,
Why does it have to come
but that's
to the-
things that you can. That's things that you can put into that person. But we want you to be represented by this person.
Can you explain why the road can't be put in a different location? I'm asking you why you can't explain why it can't be done. You're the council.
That was my question.
Yeah, but we're not planning experts. We're not planning experts.
So when you look at the map, this is the last place you'd put it. You'd put it further south, away from the houses.
When the planning went to that far, did you not ask for different routes? Or did you just accept that it was coming through here?
There's an element of conflation here, because just to be clear, and I don't want to get bogged down or bog people down in how the council works, but when the local plan came forward in 2018 and everybody said this is a 2,000 page document, the vote was on the local plan in its entirety, not in different sections of it. And the option was, on the vote, you either vote for it or you vote against it. Now, if we'd have voted against it, which we were in opposition at the time, and we certainly did, sorry, that was 2016, we then had the opportunity on a very small window to make the changes we could. Some of the changes we made were to remove the 300 houses that had been added in by UKIP. The other changes we made was the removal of traveller sites on every development, and other modifications we made within the time constraint we were allowed to, given that, and Mike alluded to it, he's absolutely right, at that particular time the threat was that the government were going to come in and intervene if the local plan wasn't voted through. Now, whether the government follow up on that or not is a moot point. We have a responsibility to make sure we are doing our best for the public, and when the government say, if you don't do this, we will send in planners to do it for you, and they did send planners into Castle Point, and Castle Point is still all over the place with regard to their particular local plan. Then the local plan was passed in its entirety. Now the local plan is being looked at for specific sites, and there's specific areas where the planning inspectors identified modifications. That's what the purpose of the consultation is now. And our responsibility, and I always said that the local plan itself as a document is the legal framework to demand infrastructure. In its simplest terms, it is the legal framework that, when it comes to house building, allows us to demand from developers infrastructure. Now, that doesn't mean that every single site, I think there's not a council that said there aren't issues locally with various sites, but that's where the process comes in, and the responsibility of councillors post the local plan is, when there's a development like this one, for the councillors to represent you, the public, from a planning point of view, to object to the development taking place. If the development does take place, the fallback position is always that we can demand the money. But right now, the process is for us to be able to represent you effectively, and for you to represent yourselves effectively. And as I said before, the first stage, and there's more than one hurdle to clear, the first stage is to respond to the consultation. Please respond to the consultation. Second stage is it goes to the examination in public. That's where the entire local plan will be examined by the inspector, and again, that's where you have a massive bite of the cherry to say, for this particular site, these are our objections, these are the planning considerations why it doesn't make sense, this is why this site, in theory, you could even say it should be removed from the local plan itself. And if the planning inspector agrees with you, he would say to the council, I want this site removed from the local plan, or I want these massive changes made. That's the planning inspector's gift, and the planning inspector knows planning law, he knows what can be done with planning, he would take all the considerations into account, he would take into account the legal debate coming from the lawyers, and then come forward to the council with what he considers to be a final version. And that's when we get the legal ability to start demanding from developers infrastructure money.
We've got at least 4 more questions.
Just one quick question.
Shout.
So, the junction at Frithwood Close, and you've got the road coming down here, but then you've got like a splinter off road turning left if you're coming down this road. How safe can that be if you are supposedly this road a articulate lorry? There is no way an articulate lorry can turn left. It's just an impossibility. And the danger of that pinch point there and that pinch point there my understanding of a new link road is you can't move existing traffic from one area to bring it to another. That's just not on.
I mean, I totally agree. I've got to say this again. I agree with every single point that's been made about how this is the wrong thing to be doing in the wrong place for the community in general. It doesn't make sense to me with regards to the plan for it, and that's why I will be fighting to represent you in speaking against and trying to put a stop to this plan.
How is it that we've got this road in here, if you say it's so bad, how did we get to this position?
Why did we get to this? I know everybody keeps on saying that they're going to defend us, but this has been going on for years now. The people in this road and round here have been blighted with this over their heads for years. People have moved in recently and they were unaware because like the planning permission hasn't gone through, but it's been mooted for so long. But nobody has actually defended the residents of the people around here by actually saying that this plan is totally ludicrous in the first place. The safety aspect is so alarmingly clear, the lack of safety here. But people have just like ridden roughshod around the actual whole fabric of this society, around, the community around here. People, as other people have said, other people on this side are going to be cut off. People are going to be driving around down here like lunatics and being used as rat runs. But everybody says they're defending, or we don't agree with the plan. But how have the plans actually got into this far in the first place?
How we got here is...
You've read my mind.
How we got here is the people that own the land, they came forward and said to the council, we want to develop this land under the call for site, which was a government requirement for councils to say, at large, if anybody's got any land for development, let us know, because the government was trying to put together a planning process because they didn't want to see unconstrained development. So the landowners put forward that land on the call for site. So that once a call for site had gone in, it was a legal obligation for the council to accept that land, but then to evaluate whether it could be development or not, whether it was capable of being developed or not. That was the process where it went through all the infrastructure requirements that got us to be able to understand that a road would be needed in the first place, that it would need to be some sort of relief road because we were talking about the traffic, we talked about whether the schools needed and everything else. So once the site had been put up by the landowners and said, we want to sell this site, we want to develop it, and to be honest, they did that because they want to make some money from it. They then went, the developers step in and they consult with the likes of the cricket club, with the likes of the football club, with the likes of the tennis club. There was talks about relocating the cricket club from one place to another, and the developers do all their process for saying, this is a site that's been put up, we will now put our proposals forward for how we think that site should be developed and what's required, taking into account the evidence that a road is needed. Now, you're right, this has gone on for a long period of time, and for a period of that time, we were out of office for 3 years, so I don't know what conversations were had with developers and the community, and what conversations were had with developers and planning for that particular period of time. But as a result of those conversations, the developers have put forward a proposal, and part of that proposal is this relief road, or link road as you call it.
It's meant to be a relief road, not a replacement road.
Yeah, and again, I totally agree. So a legal process is not decided against the development. They put forward their proposals for the development, and like with any legal process, you now have the ability to challenge that, speak against it, and for us to represent you on planning considerations to be able to say we think this is wrong. Now I've said from my particular point of view that I can't see personally how the site is going to have. There are issues with the site that is beyond the road. I think the road issues are...
I fail to understand is
You look around.
there's got to be some sort of a plan. And what I don't seem to get my head round is that there is we should think that the plan's flawed. The numbers are flawed in terms of the number of houses. However you cut it. And I just kind of think you just need to just stand up, put the brakes on and go, the plan ain't right. Let's just start looking at it again. Because the only one at the moment is the guy, Councillor Dodds, who seems to be the person who has the confidence to say, no, I just kind of just can't get my head round
And you could do it
the fact that you just keep rolling downhill with it and you pass the decisions on till you get to this point. At what point is somebody like
we keep, for 6 years we've now been blighted. I live there, I'm going to have half the driveway taken away, 6 years. We've tried to sell, we can't sell, some people can, but we don't want to move, we love our house, there's nowhere for us to go to. So, and all this talk about consultants with planning and consulting with the cricket club, but they haven't really consulted with residents, not properly. Okay. What bothers me is every stage we get told, okay, well when it goes to this, that's your chance. When it gets to this, that's the council's chance. 6 years that's been going on now. When's it going to stop? When is somebody going to have the guts to say, let's stop it now? Surely that has to start on Thursday.
They're rushing it through now.
Yeah, surely that starts on Thursday. We know it'll go through because too many people need to vote against it for it not to get through. But surely it's the time now for the Billericay Councils to say, no, we don't agree with it. It'll get to the next stage, but at least you said, we don't agree with it.
Well, I'm sad that I've got the colleagues here that have been part of that conversation. I have sat with the legal officers and independent council, and I've said exactly that. Why? What happens if we just stop the local plan? Let's just stop it, let's start again. This is what the public is saying, let's stop it. And the answer was, well, councillor, you can do that, but you need to understand that stopping the local plan will not stop any development. All of those sites are there already. The developers want to develop those sites. They will challenge you as a council. They will put forward those sites. You will be losing sites on appeal. You'll be spending the taxpayers' money on constantly defending against unconstrained development. You'll have no ability to stop these things or get the infrastructure. You would be absolutely mental to actually consider that approach. It is the worst thing you could do for the community. It is the worst thing you could do for the planning process. You would end up with no plan. It's taken you nearly 10 years to get one already. You're starting therefore another 10 years before you'd get a plan through. And that would be, and we've seen what's happened so far without having a local plan, with some of the developments and proposals that are being put forward. You would have unconstrained...
John Barron would lose his seat, and so would you lot. Yeah, right. So let's just say the consequences are not just going to be on us.
They're going to reclassify.
Just change the process. Change the process.
And that requires legislation to change the process, because the reality is, you say don't build on Greenbelt, the land on the corporate site that is designated as Greenbelt is also now designated for development. And that doesn't go away. Just because you say there's no local plan, it doesn't alter the fact that the sites were put up there, and therefore from a development point of view, and this is, bear in mind, these developers are only interested, and they will use every tool in their chest to actually do development. They will come forward, they will develop the land, we can take it to planning, planning can say no, we object to it, we're not going to do it because it's on Greenbelt or whatever. They will go to appeal and it will be overturned, and the developments will take place without any infrastructure whatsoever.
Councillor Baggott, I think you said enough. Let's cut it to the chase, please. Based on what the lady over there said, I don't live in Frithwood Lane. I've learnt a lot about what the proposals are in a very short space of time. Let's cut to the chase, please, shall we? Would you want what's been proposed in this area, in the street where you live? Don't answer the question, I know the answer. Have some, have some guts on behalf of all the residents in Billericay. It isn't just about Frithwood Lane. Not that I'm detracting the importance and the severity of the implications of what is proposed here. I live in Stone Chat Road, Billericay, just off of Green Farms Lane. There's some proposals as part of that plan on that little piece of paper to your right, which imposes where I live, which I'm not happy about. And it also imposes on lots of other people all around the circumference of Billericay. Throw the plan out in its entirety. Tell them it is not going to happen. Don't be fobbed off by developers. All developers want is this. Please, on behalf of the residents of all of Billericay, yourself and all your other councillors, have some guts and do what you should be doing.
I'm telling you now,
absolutely. Well said.
I'm telling you now, if you're all telling me that legal counsel who are paid loads of money and have the experience have got it wrong, you're all right, and they've got it wrong, when they say to me, reject the local plan and the developments will take place, developers will run all over you for exactly the reason you said, sir. They've got the money, they want to do it, they want to build, they're circling like vultures already.
That won't happen because I tell you what, John Barron and you lot will be running terrified.
No, but someone else will
You
do
will
it.
not let that happen.
Someone else will do it.
Somebody else will do it.
The people south of the 127 don't like us and they'll vote it.
Well, I'm sorry, sir, I don't trust you.
No, well, I don't trust you. That's the problem.
No, but the others will. They'll have us.
Callaghan said he'd like to concrete all over Billericay, and he was Labour. He was the one who put all this through. What I would say is the green belt. We can't put an extension in without you lot even saying no, you can't do it, no, you can't do it. Suddenly, these farm owners want to make millions, mints. They put their land up, and you jump to it and say, yeah, you can develop on it. That should stay farmland. There should be a rule that stay. They don't sell it, but sell it as farmland and stay as farmland. It is not right that you will pass through and let people build houses on what's green belt. You lose that, we never get that back. We never get that back.
And picking up on the point that lady raised earlier about Boris Johnson raised in the Conservative conference last October.
Hold on. Sorry, start again.
Okay, last October, Boris Johnson raised, which everybody is aware of, that in his speech, and I've quoted it in my letter to councillors and to John Barron, that we will not build on Greenbelt. We will target brownfield sites only, and we won't over-target the southeast. And Andrew Schrader's response to that was, it hasn't filtered down into legislation. Well, that happened in October. What is happening about that? Because if there's legislation that you can't build on Greenbelt, all this goes away.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and that's why, and I said I would publish them on my Facebook site. I have written twice now to our MPs, asking them to fight that particular fight and push through the legislation. Now, Mark Francois, John Barron, Steve Metcalfe have all said to you that's what they're doing. They've approached the Minister to push through this legislation. And that's why I said I will use every trick in the book to actually get this done. But I am constrained by a tricky little thing called the law and a tricky little thing called planning law, which means that we have to respond and do things in a certain way. And it's frustrating to you, the residents, but it's equally as frustrating for me, because I like to just get things done. But we are pushing together our legislation through, because that will do exactly that. And it's not right, and government do speak with forked tongue. They say that on one hand, and then on the other, and you'll see it in the letter, oh, we understand this, we now expect you to get the job done. We expect the local plan to be delivered. And the threat is from government, or the concern that I have, because government are only interested in getting houses built, no matter what the cost, and they want to see local plans put in place to stop development taking place in infrastructure. The government do have a concern about infrastructure. It's where the local planning framework was first set up in the first place. I don't have the confidence, to be honest, that legislation was going to get through like that. I think that it will, and I think that with enough MPs pushing it, it will, and it will strengthen our hand considerably. But right now, we can only play the hand we've got, and that hand is to do everything in our power to support you. Everything you said is absolutely right. I am on your side. I guarantee that I'm on your side. And we can go back about how we got there over 2016, 2014, 2012, but we're now 2022. And the considerations at hand right now are, we have a proposal for a link road which is wrong and which needs fighting. And we have a local plan that is trundling through, where all the legal advice from people that are cleverer than me when it comes to planning has been, if you don't take this local plan through, the consequences for your communities will be far worse than you can imagine. And I do buy into that, because I've had conversations or I've spoken to developers who can't wait. They're rubbing their hands with glee to actually start proposals. They would love it if they could start doing development without any requirement for them to put their hand in their pocket. And what we have to do is fight everything we can do to ensure that they do put their hand in their pocket. And when you look at the national picture, which is why, I mean, this is just an opinion. When you look at the fact that you've got so many developers going to the wall, I question whether this site will ever be developed. I think there are far too many issues with it. I don't have the confidence that these developers will have the 25 million to be able to start the process in the first place. But let's say they do, we have to make sure we have the legal framework to demand that if they do have the money.